think really this week's critical. And when you look at some of the states, the growth in cases in some of the states, they may be under exponential growth right now. Certainly the cases that are building in Texas would be indicative of the fact that there is exponential growth in cases there, and there is a major outbreak underway in that state.
So he said we're in the middle of the first wave. That's key, as there are some questions as to whether we're still seeing the first wave or the second wave. The other issue that we need to deal with tonight is that models suggest the spread has actually accelerated since last week. Dr. Gottlieb, that's according to Morgan Stanley. You cited that today on Twitter.
Yeah, it's very clear that there's multiple states right now that have epidemics underway. When you go to RT Live, which has done a pretty good job of tracking the reproduction rate in different states, the scope of the epidemic in different states, it shows about 30 states where the epidemic's expanding. And about a week ago, there were only about 15 states where the epidemic was still expanding. When you look at Arizona with 3,600 cases, California with 5,000, Texas with almost 5,500, Florida with 3,300 today, it's very clear that there is epidemics underway in these southern states. And the challenge is it's going to be hard to get them under control because these states aren't going to revert back to the population-wide mitigation, which they never really implemented fully to begin with. It's going to be hard to implement universal masking after all the messaging around that and the mixed messaging and the discretion that's being given to local officials. So it's hard to see what's going to happen that's going to intervene to stop the spread. A lot of these cases are younger people, and the fact that we're diagnosing so many younger people with infection and that they're starting to show up in the hospital as well is an indication that the spread must be far more pervasive at the community level, because we know only a smaller percentage of younger people are going to present with symptoms severe enough to get them tested and certainly to get hospitalized. So you could surmise from that the spread in these states must be pretty widespread at this point. So that's going to be hard to get under control.
We have our sound now ready from Dr. Fauci today on Capitol Hill. Let's listen and we can react to it on the other side.
We're now seeing a disturbing surge of infections that looks like it's a combination, but one of the things is an increase in community spread. And that's something that I'm really quite concerned about. That.
Do you now regret not advising people more forcefully to wear masks earlier?
Okay, we're going to play that game. Let me explain to you what happened back then.
Should be a yes or a no.
No, there's more than a yes or no by the tone of your question. I don't regret that, because let me explain to you what happened. At that time, there was a paucity of equipment that our healthcare providers needed, who put themselves daily in harm's way of taking care of people who are ill. We did not want to divert masks and PPE away from them to be used by the people. I think thinking that young people have no deleterious consequences is not true. We're seeing more and more complications in young people. When, and I believe it will be when and not if, we get favorable candidates with good results, we will be able to make them available to the American public, as I said to this committee months ago, within a year from when we started, which would put us at the end of this calendar year and the beginning of 2021. I, as a member of the task force, and my colleagues on the task force, to my knowledge, I know for sure, but to my knowledge, none of us have ever been told to slow down on testing. That just is a fact. In fact, we will be doing more testing.
Okay, that was Dr. Fauci today. Dr. Gottlieb, just your reaction in total to what you heard from Dr. Fauci today.
Well, look, I think the issue around the masks is real. Early on, there was a shortage of masks, so it was hard to have a universal recommendation on people to wear masks. Even simple masks, like level 1 procedure masks, were in short supply. There was also a concern that if you recommended that people wear masks, it was sort of a mixed message, because the top line recommendation was they should stay at home. And so there was concern that if you said stay at home but wear a mask, that was going to give conflicting guidance, and people could think that they'll be safe as long as they go out with a mask. And so it would conflict with the overall recommendation, which was people should be staying at home. I think what these states in the South need to do right now is do very good contact tracing work, figure out what are the congregate settings where this is spreading right now. And they don't really know. They think it's the bars, but they don't have very good contact tracing back to those establishments. And then they're going to have to take targeted mitigation steps. They're going to have to be willing to shut down establishments where this is spreading. And if it's the bars or the restaurants, they're going to have to take targeted measures. That may be politically difficult, but the level of spread right now is sufficiently high that it's going to require some pretty aggressive steps to get it under control. And I don't think that just a seasonal effect at this point is going to do it. There's really no backstop between now and the fall.
You cited some states in the South, in fact today, Texas, Florida, Georgia, that made their policy decisions on reopening based on what was happening in Sweden. Now, are they paying the price for making some of those decisions tonight?
Well, I don't know if they made it based on Sweden. What I said was that it looks like the Swedish model insofar as they reopened against the backdrop of a lot of spread, and they tried to take targeted steps to protect the elderly population, focusing a lot of resources on nursing homes. Cognizant that there was going to continue to be spread, they opened the restaurants and the bars, and so people were going to congregate, and so the spread wasn't going to go away. And there was a presumption that so long as you had resiliency in the healthcare system, capacity left, you could deal with the continuing spread. And so I think that there was some implicit understanding that they were going to have continued spread in those states. I think what they didn't anticipate was that it would accelerate in the fashion that it has. But they reopened against the backdrop of a lot of spread, and it wasn't just going to go away. It was going to continue at that level at the very least and probably accelerate. And remember, it takes time for this to build at a community level before it really explodes into public view. And that's, in fact, what's happened. This spread must have been underway for weeks and weeks, and now we're starting to detect it because it was spreading in a community, young people, that were mostly not presenting either for testing or for medical care.